The world around you feels familiar, doesn't it? The shapes, the textures, the rhythms of everyday life, so natural, so real. You walk through it, relying on what your eyes see and what your mind understands. Yet, beneath this surface lies an unsettling question. Is this truly the world as it is, or merely a fraction of a far greater reality? This question has haunted thinkers for centuries, a riddle etched into the fabric of our existence. Plato, one of history's most profound philosophers, posed a challenge, a doorway to deeper understanding. In his famous Allegory of the Cave, he described a world where human beings, like prisoners, mistake shadows for substance, illusions for truth. Today, his vision feels eerily relevant. In a world brimming with screens, algorithms, and meticulously crafted realities, how much of what we perceive is genuine? How much is a carefully orchestrated shadow? Technology, media, and even our own minds weave a tapestry so convincing that questioning it feels almost heretical. But the invitation stands. It is an invitation not just to observe but to challenge. To challenge what is seen, what is believed, and what is known. Plato's allegory was not just a story but a guide, a beacon for those brave enough to ask the most unsettling questions. What if the reality you hold onto so tightly isn't the ultimate truth? What if stepping beyond that veil could change everything? This journey into the unknown isn't comfortable. It's not meant to be, but it's the kind of discomfort that leads to growth, transformation, and enlightenment. And now the question is yours. Will you stay content with the shadows, or will you step toward the light? Deep within the earth, there is a space cloaked in shadows and silence. The air is thick, heavy, carrying the faint crackle of a distant fire. Figures are seated, bound by chains, their bodies held still and their gaze locked forward. Before them stretches a vast stone wall, illuminated by flickering shapes, shadows that dance and shift in rhythmic patterns. These shadows are their entire world. Animals, people, objects, all mere silhouettes projected by the glow of a flame behind them. They see movement, they hear echoes, and to them this is reality. There is no suspicion of anything more, no notion that the source of these shadows lies hidden beyond their reach. Behind the prisoners, beyond their line of sight, lies a stage where figures manipulate objects, their shapes casting these shadows onto the wall. There is no malice in this design, it simply is. Yet, it traps the prisoners in an illusion, convincing them that these blurred forms are the only truth worth knowing. For those seated there, day after day, the shadows take on meaning. They discuss the shapes, debate their significance, assign names, and even develop beliefs around these fleeting impressions. To them, the wall is the universe, the shadows its inhabitants, and the echoes their whispers of truth. But this existence, confined to the wall and the chains, is not what it seems. Beyond the fire, beyond the cave itself, lies something they could never comprehend. A brilliance so vast and so real that it would unravel every certainty they hold. Yet, here they remain, fixed in place, interpreting a world of dim projections. For them, the cave is not just a space. It is life itself, a reality unquestioned. The chains are not forged of steel alone. They are stronger than that, crafted from something far more binding, belief. These prisoners, locked in their seats, do not struggle against their bonds. They do not test their strength or wonder why they are bound at all. To them, the chains are not chains. They are simply the way things are. These bindings are silent yet absolute, holding the body still and the mind complacent. It isn't the physical restraint that traps them, but the prison of certainty. The shadows on the wall offer comfort, predictability, and the illusion of understanding. After all, if this is all there is, then there's nothing to question, nothing to fear. But these chains have another layer. They extend beyond the cave, beyond the physical realm, into the hearts and minds of everyone who has ever feared the unknown. They are the habits of thought that keep people from asking difficult questions, the societal norms that demand conformity, and the internal voices that whisper, "Stay here where it's safe." Freedom lies just beyond their reach, yet they do not reach for it. Why would they? To break the chains would mean to step into uncertainty, to face the unknown, and to leave behind everything they think they understand. It would mean risking comfort for truth, a terrifying exchange that few are willing to make. And so, they remain seated, the chains holding them in place as much as their own unwillingness to see what lies beyond. The fire flickers, the shadows dance, and the illusion continues. The chains may be invisible, but their grip is ironclad. One of the prisoners shifts. Something has changed. Not the wall, not the shadows, but a force pulling at the edges of their certainty. Hands, unseen yet determined, remove the chains. For the first time, their body is free, but freedom feels more like chaos than liberation. Their head turns, slowly at first, then with a jolt. The fire, blazing and real, casts its light across the cave, illuminating the very objects and figures that had once been nothing more than shapes on the wall. The prisoner stumbles, shielding their eyes. The brilliance is unbearable, overwhelming. The mind reels, clinging to the familiar comfort of the shadows. They turn back to the wall, desperate for its simplicity. The shadows may have been limited, but they were safe. Now the world has cracked open, and it is too much to bear. The fire's warmth burns, and the sounds of the cave echo differently, no longer the muted whispers of a world they thought they understood. Step by step, the prisoner is led forward, pulled by a force they can neither name nor resist. The path winds upward, each step harder than the last. The darkness of the cave begins to shift into a gray haze as the entrance nears. But with each step, fear intensifies. Questions flood their mind. What is beyond? Why must I leave? Can't I return to what I know? And then they emerge. The world explodes into light. The sun blazes overhead, its radiance piercing and relentless. The prisoner falls to their knees, blinded and trembling. Their senses, unaccustomed to such clarity, protest. The truth is too much, the light too vivid. But as the moments pass, their breath steadies. The sun's warmth becomes a comfort rather than a torment. Slowly, painfully, they begin to open their eyes to the vastness of a world far beyond the cave. What was once incomprehensible begins to take form. The prisoner has tasted freedom, but it has come at a cost, the loss of every certainty they once held dear. The prisoner stands on unsteady legs, the ground beneath them unfamiliar and the air heavy with possibility. Their gaze rises, cautiously, exploring the shapes and forms that stretch beyond the horizon. Everything feels vast, alive, and overwhelming. Each step away from the cave reveals something new. The trees swaying with an unseen wind, the ripple of water catching the light, and the creatures that move freely, untethered by chains or walls. At first, their eyes struggle to focus. The brilliance of the world demands patience, forcing them to adapt. What was once a blur begins to take form. Colors sharpen, details emerge, and the prisoner realizes these shapes, these living, breathing entities, are nothing like the shadows they once worshipped. The ascent continues, pulling them closer to the ultimate source of this clarity. The sun, high above, radiates an intensity that both draws and daunts. It is not just a light but a force, a presence that seems to watch and guide. Each step toward it feels heavier, as if the very gravity of truth weighs on their soul. As they move closer, reflections begin to appear. Glimmers of the sun bouncing off pools of water, fragments of its brilliance scattered across the landscape. These glimpses offer moments of revelation. How everything they see is connected, each piece a thread in a vast, intricate tapestry. There are moments of doubt. The prisoner's mind clings to the simplicity of the cave, the comfort of its familiar darkness. But with every backward glance, the cave seems smaller, its significance dimmed by the expanse of what now surrounds them. Finally, the prisoner reaches a peak where the sun dominates the sky, its rays bathing the world in gold. They stand still, looking directly at its light. For the first time, there is no pain, no struggle, only understanding. The sun reveals itself as more than a source of light. It is the origin of all they now see, the force that gives shape and life to the world. This moment of ascension transforms them. The prisoner, once bound and blind, is no longer the same. They are free, not just in body but in mind and spirit, standing at the threshold of a new reality that is both humbling and exhilarating. The sun hangs above, sovereign and untouchable. Its radiance touches everything, revealing the contours of the world in its fullness. For the freed prisoner, this light is no longer just a physical phenomenon. It is something far greater, a symbol, a force that seems to breathe meaning into existence itself. Looking up at the sun, there is an undeniable sense of connection. This is not just light that illuminates. It is the source of life, the reason why trees stretch skyward and rivers carve paths through the earth. It touches everything, not with indifference, but with purpose. The prisoner begins to understand. This light represents the ultimate truth, the essence of what Plato called the form of the good. It is not just a concept, but the very foundation of reality. Everything seen, felt, and understood is a reflection of this truth. The shadows in the cave were faint echoes, distant distortions of what the good embodies. There is a realization that the form of the good is more than knowledge. It is the origin of knowledge itself. It is what allows the mind to see clearly, to distinguish between illusion and reality, and to grasp the interconnectedness of all things. Without it, even the sharpest vision would remain blind to meaning. This revelation brings a profound clarity. The prisoner sees how everything in existence flows from this source, the light that sustains life, the patterns that form the world, and the truths that shape understanding. It is a force both transcendent and immanent, beyond reach yet woven into the fabric of every experience. Standing beneath the sun, the prisoner's heart swells with a sense of awe and responsibility. To see the form of the good is not a passive act. It demands change. It calls for alignment, for the individual to live in harmony with this ultimate truth, to seek not just personal enlightenment, but to bring light into the shadows for others. The sun remains in the sky, unchanging, unyielding. It offers no words, only its unwavering presence. And in that presence, the prisoner finds not just understanding, but purpose. The journey is far from over. There is still the cave, the shadows, and those who remain bound. But now there is light to guide the way. The journey toward understanding is not a straight path. It is layered, a progression from the faintest glimmers of perception to the full blaze of enlightenment. This path, described by Plato, is the divided line, a framework that reveals the levels of knowledge, each step an ascent from illusion to truth. At the lowest point lies Icasia. This is the realm of shadows, the space where the prisoners of the cave reside. Here, reality is nothing more than echoes and reflections, distorted impressions that deceive the senses. It is a world of opinion, where belief is shaped by appearances, shallow and fleeting. Above this comes pistis, the level of belief. While still bound to the physical, this stage involves engagement with the tangible world, the objects casting the shadows. It is a step forward, but one still rooted in the concrete, unable to grasp the deeper principles that govern reality. Further along the line is dianoia, the realm of thought and reason. Here, the mind begins to break free from the physical. It employs logic, mathematics, and abstract reasoning to uncover patterns and principles. This stage is no longer confined to what is seen or touched. It seeks to understand the structures that underpin the visible world. And then, there is noesis. This is the pinnacle of knowledge, the realm of pure understanding. It transcends the limits of thought, offering direct insight into the forms, the eternal truths that define reality. Here, the soul perceives the form of the good itself, not through argument or deduction, but as an undeniable, self-evident reality. Each level of the divided line is connected, a bridge to the next. Moving upward requires effort, a willingness to question, to doubt, and to seek. It is not an easy journey. Each stage demands a breaking away from the comfort of the previous one, a confrontation with the limits of what was once believed to be true. The divided line is not merely a model of knowledge, but a map of the soul's journey. It is the process of turning away from the shadows and toward the light, of transforming the mind to perceive what was once hidden. And for the freed prisoner, this map is not theoretical. It is the story of their ascent, their struggle, and their awakening. The question remains, how far along this line can one travel, and what must be sacrificed to reach its highest point. The light of the sun, now familiar, calls for action. For the freed prisoner, the journey is not complete. The cave still exists, and within it remain those who are bound, staring at shadows and believing them to be all there is. The realization strikes like a command. The truth must be shared. As they descend back into the darkness, the world they once knew feels alien. The shadows, once so vivid and meaningful, now appear flat and empty. The air grows heavier, the firelight dimmer, and the murmurs of the prisoners echo like the distant hum of an old dream. When the freed one steps back into the chamber, the chains and shadows seem unchanged. The prisoners sit as they always have, speaking in earnest about the shapes on the wall. To them, these forms are life itself, their movements and echoes a source of fascination and debate. The first words spoken by the returning soul are met with confusion. What they describe, a reality beyond the cave, a light that reveals the true nature of things, is incomprehensible. How could there be something greater than the shadows? Laughter follows. The freed one, once one of them, is now regarded as a fool. The others mock their words, dismissing them as delusions or madness. This is the world, they say, gesturing to the shadows. This is all there has ever been. Yet the freed one persists. They try to describe the warmth of the sun, the vibrancy of the colors, the interconnectedness of all things. They urge the others to turn their heads, to question the shadows, to see what lies beyond. But the effort only deepens the divide. Some of the prisoners grow angry. The very suggestion that their reality is incomplete feels like an insult, a threat to their comfort and understanding. To question the shadows would mean unraveling everything they know. And so, their chains become tighter not by force but by choice. For the one who has seen the light, the weight of truth becomes a burden. The path forward is clear. The knowledge they have gained cannot be abandoned, even if it isolates them. To return to the cave was an act of courage, a willingness to face ridicule and rejection for the sake of offering others the chance to see. But the greatest challenge remains. How do you free those who do not wish to be freed? How do you convince someone to step into a light they cannot yet comprehend? The cave is no longer just a story. Its walls extend far beyond stone, its shadows cast by more than a flickering flame. In a world shaped by digital screens, algorithms, and curated realities, the question is no longer whether the cave exists. It is how deeply we are still trapped within it. Every day, the shadows dance. They appear in news feeds, social media timelines, and meticulously crafted entertainment. These shadows aren't mere illusions. They are designed to captivate, to hold attention, to build narratives that feel real. The firelight that once flickered in the cave has evolved into 1,000,000 glowing screens, each projecting its version of the world. The simulation is not science fiction. It is a system of beliefs, perceptions, and constructs that keep the mind occupied. Comfort is its currency, distraction its power. To step beyond it requires confronting not only external illusions but also the internal chains of habit and certainty. Plato's Allegory speaks of shadows as mere reflections of reality. But what happens when those shadows become so compelling that they replace reality itself? When the virtual becomes indistinguishable from the tangible, and truth is lost in a web of carefully spun images, what remains of our ability to see the world as it truly is? This is the question that lingers. How much of what we accept as real is constructed? How often do we settle for the easier, more palatable version of the truth because the alternative feels too overwhelming? The journey out of the cave is no longer just philosophical. It is personal. It is about peeling back the layers of simulation to find what is genuine beneath them. The freed prisoner's ascent toward the sun becomes a metaphor for breaking through these constructs. It is a reminder that reality, though daunting, is worth the struggle. The light, though blinding at first, holds the clarity that no shadow can offer. But the cave calls, pulling people back with its siren song of simplicity. To truly escape requires more than just walking away. It demands a shift in perception, a willingness to question everything, even the comfortable illusions we hold about ourselves. Are we still prisoners? Are the shadows on our walls crafted by forces we barely notice? And if so, what would it take to step into the light, to see not just a version of reality, but reality itself? The journey does not end with the light of the sun. For the freed prisoner, the path forward is not merely about personal enlightenment. It is a call to something greater, a life shaped by wisdom, courage, and purpose. To walk in the light means embracing its weight. Truth is not soft or easy. It does not bend to comfort or convenience. It demands vigilance, the willingness to confront illusions and to question not only the world but oneself. Wisdom is not a destination. It is a way of being, a continual unfolding of understanding that requires humility and determination. The call to wisdom echoes not as a command but as an invitation. It asks not for perfection but for persistence. To turn away from the cave and toward the light is an act of defiance against ignorance. Yet the journey does not stop there. True wisdom is found in returning, not to live in the shadows, but to guide others toward the light. Plato's allegory ends not with isolation, but with community. The philosopher who ascends to the sun must return, bearing the burden of knowledge for the benefit of those still bound. It is a reminder that wisdom is not hoarded. It is shared. Its purpose is not to elevate one person above another but to uplift all. The world we live in is its own cave, filled with distractions and distortions. The call to wisdom today is as urgent as it was in Plato's time. It is a call to see clearly, to think deeply, and to act boldly. It is a call to seek the truth, even when it challenges what we hold dear. The choice is yours. The shadows will always be there, tempting with their simplicity and comfort. But the light waits too, steady and unwavering, ready to illuminate a path for those willing to take the first step. To answer this call is to choose growth over stagnation, clarity over illusion, and purpose over passivity. It is to embrace the challenge of living in alignment with truth, no matter how difficult or lonely that road may be. So the question remains, will you linger in the cave, content with the shadows, or will you step into the light and take up the mantle of wisdom? The sun is waiting, and the journey is yours to make.